how you do anything is how you do everything. And so I want you to think about your life right now and some of the things that you're working on. And so maybe perhaps there's some minor things that you've been working on, and maybe you've convinced yourself, if you put in your mind, you know what, it's not going to matter if maybe this time I don't give all my effort. It's not going to matter if maybe this time I decide to cut the corners. It's not going to matter if maybe this time I don't go ahead and actually push myself the extra mile. It's not going to matter if maybe this time I decide to engage in this limiting conversation. It's not going to matter if maybe this time I decide to watch this nonsense, the programming that I'm watching. It's not going to matter if maybe this time I decide to compromise my values and the things that I want to do. It's not going to matter if maybe this time I decide that I'm not going to follow through on my commitment and keep my word. Let me tell you something. It matters. It all matters, because one thing affects the other. And if you didn't know, now you know that how you do anything is how you do everything. And so it's your responsibility. Yeah, it's your responsibility to play full out. That the largest event that you will ever attend in your life is not a personal development event that may have a couple thousand people. It's not a sports event that may have 50, 60, 80,000 people in the stands. It's not a concert that could have 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people there. The largest event that you will ever attend in your life is this event, a personal event of yours, which is called life, your life. That will be the biggest headline that you will ever attend. And your ticket sales and your impact and the things that happen and the amount of seats that will be in your arena is going to be based on one thing and one thing only, and it's going to be based on how you decide to show up and whether or not you decide to play full out. And so maybe perhaps there's something that you've been working on and you know in your heart that you have been giving full effort. Maybe perhaps there's something that you've been working on that you know that you didn't necessarily give it your all. You know that there's still something in you that you can contribute. And what I want to remind you is this, is how you do anything is how you do everything. And so it's your responsibility to play full out. You know, many of you, as you've heard Star introduce me, she's mentioned that I've graduated summa cum laude, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for having, gotten straight A's through high school and grade school. But see, what most people don't understand is how that came about. You see, I wish I could say that I graduated summa cum laude or that I got straight A's all through school because I was just, that smart, because I know there's plenty of other kids that were much smarter than me. I wish I could say it's because I had some kind of extraordinary gift, and I would tell you right now that I had to study just as hard, if not harder, than all the other students. But what happened is I was fortunate and grateful enough. You see, my mom, who as many of you know, my mom came to this country from Haiti, and my mom, not knowing how she was going to be able to assist me with my schoolwork because English is not her primary language, my mom at least had the foresight and the wisdom that when I was in elementary school, she came to the school and tried to find out if there was any teacher there at the school who was bilingual, who also spoke Creole. Because even though I was born here in the United States, my mom and my dad were speaking Creole so much in the house that as a young child, I was actually more comfortable speaking Creole than I was English, because that was the dominant language in the household. And so my mom, knowing that she wouldn't have the time necessarily to sit down and do the homework, and not necessarily that she would even be able to understand it because it was in English, my mom had the foresight to say, I've got to find some help for him. And so she came to the school and she found out that there was one Haitian professor in the school, one Haitian teacher. And my mom approached her. Her name was Marie Claire, and she asked her, she said, hey, listen, I'm going to be working a lot, and I know I'm not going to be able to help him out with his schoolwork. And so I just want to know, is there any way that you could become his tutor? Maybe straight from school, he can leave school and go home with you. You can sit with him and do his homework. And when I leave my business late at night, I'll come and pick him up. And this lady was nice enough and took my mom up on the offer. And she would eventually become my second mom. But I tell you, there was some growing pains early on. And so I remember sitting down as a little boy in elementary school, sitting down, and we would get these homework assignments. And I remember sitting down at the table with her to go through the homework assignments. And there'll be little areas in which, I got tired, just like any kid would. If you remember those assignments where you had to do the letter in cursive A, you'd write the cursive letter A over and over again, or the cursive letter B over and over again. And I remember I would start off and the A's would be nice and neat. And as I started to get a little tired and I wanted to go out and play, they would get a little sloppier. And what would happen is when I would turn in my assignment to her for her to look at it, because she wanted to review everything, she would sit me back down at the table. And if I just got sloppy with just one or two of them, she would erase everything on the entire sheet and make me do it again. And I just thought, oh my gosh, she's being evil right now. How can she do this? And I didn't understand, but now you see, the results don't lie. You see, what she was teaching me early on, I was only with her through elementary school, but I would go on from there in middle school and get straight A's. I'd go on from there to high school and get straight A's. I'd go from high school to college and get straight A's. And why? Because she taught me one fundamental principle early on. And here's what she taught me. She said that if you're going to do something, you got to give it your all. And the principle that she shared with me, and that now I really understand, she didn't quite put it in these words, but now I understand what she was essentially saying is, Andy, how you do anything is how you do everything. And so if I allow you to take a shortcut right here, you're likely to try to take a shortcut someplace else. If I allow you to turn this in and it's not your 100% best effort, you're going to start thinking that it's okay to not give your best effort. If I allow you to not expect and raise your own personal expectations of yourself, that somewhere along the line you may possibly decide to lower the bar and not give it your all. And so what I'm saying to you is this, that right now you've got to be willing to push yourself. You've got to play full out. There's still something in you that you haven't tapped in yet. Whatever you're doing right now, you can take it to another level. And so you may not be at a seminar over the weekend where someone's reminding you to play full out. You may not be on a Thursday night Show Up For Your Life motivational call, but you've got to place this upon yourself. You've got to say to yourself that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to play full out. Why? Because there's some people right now that unfortunately are coming up short. And what they're not realizing is the reason why they're coming up short is because they're not playing full out. They're not exerting full energy. They've gotten comfortable with cutting corners. They've gotten comfortable with not doing what's expected of them. And what I'm saying to you is this, is that if you do that enough, what will happen is you'll find yourself living a mediocre life. If you do that enough, you'll find yourself being very comfortable with accepting average. And so, as we know, average is no longer enough. And so one of the things that I would say to you is that not only did I realize that from observing what was going on in the room over the course of this weekend, is the importance of playing full out and giving 100% and understanding that how you do anything is how you do everything. The other thing that I want you to realize is that, as many of you may or may not know, one of the things that is the Tony Robbins UPW event is infamous for is the firewalk. And so in this particular case, they decided to place the firewalk on the first day. So here you are coming to a 4-day seminar and you're thinking you're going to, build the mindset to prepare yourself to walk through the fire, to walk on some coals, okay, that are literally on fire. And so you're thinking you're going to get about 4 days to prepare yourself mentally for this. And so to completely mess up your psyche, they place the firewalk on the very first day. And so I'm looking around the room. And before, when I find out we're doing the firewalk on the first day, I'm looking around the room and I'm saying, this is insane, because I'm looking around the room. There's kids in the room. There's people in their 70s in the room. There are people from over 26 countries in the room, and I'm thinking to myself that there's no way. I mean, most people would never walk through fire unless their life absolutely depended on it. I said, well, I just got to see, how are these people going to actually build the mindset to be able to walk through fire? And so sure enough, we go through the entire first day, and then we go through some mental exercises to create some symbolism for what it means to walk through this fire. That's more than just conquering the fear of getting burned and walking through the fire, but it's about many of the other fears that we're having to deal with. And I'm looking around the room, and I could tell there's so many people at the beginning of the day who are saying to themselves that there's no way. They're checking out mentally. They're saying to themselves, there's no way I'm going to walk through fire. But I would tell you this, by the end of the day, I don't know if maybe there's a couple people that I missed, because there's 6,000 people there, but I could tell you, for the most part, everybody that I actually saw, and many of the people that actually knew that were there, I know that everybody who was there, for the most part, everyone that I saw actually walked through the fire. And so the amazing thing was, as I was witnessing this, is that one of the things that I realized, and I want you to understand this, is that most of us have the capacity to do far more than what we think. And so here's what I know, that the majority of the people who are there didn't think in a million years that they would build the mental fortitude, that they would be able to dig deep enough to be able to walk through some fire. They didn't think it was possible. They were thinking to themselves, there's no way I'll do it. Listen, I'll jump up and down all weekend. I'll participate in these activities. I'll share with a stranger what my fears are. But I tell you right now, there's no way that I'm going to be walking through hot coals. There's no way I'm going to be doing this. I'm not trying to get my feet burned. I'm not doing anything like this. I'm just not doing it. And so it's amazing to watch the transformation that took place when people decided to face their fears as opposed to run away from their fears. And one of the things that I tell you that I realize, and I need you to grasp this, is that every single one of us is capable of doing far more than what we think. And so I know that right now there's maybe some things that you're dealing with, or some things that you are thinking about, that you're thinking about going after, that you're thinking about achieving. And as you sit back and you look at these things, you're thinking to yourself, you're saying, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this. I don't know how I'm going to be able to pull this thing off. I mean, I have this goal, this dream, this vision, but I don't necessarily have the resources. I don't have the contacts. I don't have the knowledge. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Or maybe perhaps right now you're dealing with something. You're dealing with a health issue, or maybe perhaps you're dealing with a strain on your relationship, a strain on your marriage, or you're facing some significant debt, or you just incurred a very large loss, or somebody that's very close to you passed away, or something that's going on. And maybe perhaps you're saying to yourself that I don't know how I'm going to do this. And what I want to remind you is this, is trust me on this. You can handle far more than what you think. And so, yes, maybe you say to yourself that I don't think I'm capable of this. But what I'm saying to you is this, that I know unequivocally, I watch people go through the fire who didn't think that it was possible. I know that we have the capacity to do far more than what we think. I remember when my trip to Africa, going to Africa, and you look around here and you see if a 4-year-old or 5-year-old child is someplace by themselves, that immediately someone would probably grab that 4-year-old, 5-year-old and call the authorities and say, oh, there's child neglect and we protect our children so much. But I was in Africa and I saw kids that were 4 years old, 5 years old, who were walking for miles independently to go and get water and retrieve water and bring it back to their family. When I was there, I went through a place called Kibera, which is considered one of the poorest slums in all of Africa. And I saw people living in circumstances, in an environment that that you couldn't even imagine, where the trash was up to their waist, where there's water that was going down slope, was the same water that some people were using to use the restroom. And later on down the hill, you would see the same people bending down and using that water as a source to cook their food and drink water. There are some things that I witnessed, I'm telling you, that you wouldn't even think or possibly imagine. I saw 8-year-old boys, 9-year-old boys who are out in the middle of nowhere by themselves with a couple of cows and with a couple of goats or with a couple of sheep, who are already shepherds all by themselves. And so trust me on this, that you can handle way more than you think. That whatever it is that you're facing right now, you can handle it. That there's still something in you that you probably haven't even began to tap into yet. And yes, so maybe whatever it is that you're facing, it's intimidating. Whatever it is that you're facing, that you're not quite sure how you're going to do it. But what I'm saying is there's still something in you that maybe perhaps you just don't know, but you have the capacity to handle this thing. You have the capacity to turn this thing around. You have the capacity to endure. I saw people who were enduring the most difficult of circumstances in Africa. And did I not mention that they were doing it with a smile? Did I not mention that they were doing it with the nice and the great spirit? Did I not mention that they were doing it and were still looking to help and support those people around them? And what I'm saying is that there's still something in you, that whatever it is that you're thinking that you can't handle, whatever it is your firewalk. I don't know what your firewalk is. Maybe it's writing that book. Maybe your firewalk is making the call, like Star just mentioned. Maybe your firewalk is actually pursuing your goals and your dreams. Maybe your firewalk is starting your business. Maybe your firewalk is getting out of debt and becoming debt free. Maybe your firewalk is doing and leaving this job in which you know is not in alignment with that thing that you've been called to do. I don't know what it is. All I know is that you can handle this. You can endure. You can walk through the fire. Because why? Because you can handle more than you think. And finally, not only do you need to make sure that you play full out, because how you do anything is how you do everything. And not only do you need to recognize and acknowledge the fact that you have the capacity to do far more than what you think. That finally, one of the things that I observed while I was there during the seminar was that, this event was a 4-day event. We started on Thursday, went Friday, went Saturday, and Sunday. And I would say probably one of the best days of the event was the final day. And so you can't help but notice when you're in a room that had 6,000 people, and you were there from the very first day, you can't help but actually observe as you look around the room that on the last day that seats that were completely full, that now you're starting to see pockets of empty seats. And sure, that's expected. It's expected that not everybody is going to cross the finish line. Sure, it's expected that not everybody who starts with you is necessarily going to finish with you. But what I'm saying to you is this, is that you've got to finish. And so what I realize is that, listen, I'm sure there are many people who had some great excuses, some great reasons on why they didn't finish. I'm sure that some of them maybe had some travel plans, and so maybe they didn't make the right travel accommodations, and so they had flights to catch. Maybe some people that they didn't get a babysitter for the last and final day, and so they weren't able to work some things out. Maybe some people had some other commitments or something. But at the end of the day, regardless of what their excuse was, the end of the day, it all boiled down to one thing: they still didn't finish. And so what I realize is that many of us now, we've gotten comfortable with starting something and not finishing. And what I'm realizing is this, is that the difference between the 3% and the other 97% is that the 3% understand the importance of finishing. And so we understand that success is not necessarily convenient. No, you're going to have to make room for it. And part of making room for success is understanding that if you start something, you've got to finish. And so there are some of you right now that there's something that you've started on. You started that book. You know what it is. You started writing. You started putting some of those stories down on paper, on your computer. And what I'm saying is you've got to finish it. And some of you, you started the business plan. You've been thinking about it. You've had some great conversations. And what I'm saying is you've got to finish. And so some of you, you started this new health regimen, and you started a day or two at the beginning of the year or so. You started working out. And what I'm saying to you is you've got to finish. And so some of you have declared within yourself that, you know what, that I'm going to get intentional about working a little harder on my marriage. I'm going to get intentional about getting out of debt. I'm going to get intentional about discovering what my purpose, what my calling is. Some of you said, I'm going to be a little more intentional about making some things happen. And so you've started the process. You've started the project. You've started the business. You've started with the idea. You've started with doing some of the activities. But what I'm saying to you is don't confuse activity. Don't confuse activity with actually making things happen. And what I'm saying to you is you've got to finish. You've got to cross the finish line. And so whatever it is, this thing that you've put away to the side, this thing that you haven't completed, this thing that you've talked yourself out of it, this thing that you gave yourself some kind of sophisticated, great sounding excuse as to why you didn't do it. And, you know, I heard this silly expression, but it helps bring it to life. They said, you know what, if you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. And so no matter how you dress up your excuses, it's still an excuse. And so whether you try to make the excuse sound and look all pretty, guess what? It's still an excuse. And so at the end of the day, the question is, will you finish? And so what I'm challenging you to do is to finish. And so I just want you to process some of these things as you look at your life. And so number one, are you playing full out? Are you realizing that you've got to play full out in everything, the little things and the big things? Why? Because how you do anything is how you do everything. And of course, the second thing is understand this, that you're capable of doing far more than what you think. That yes, it may be intimidating. Yes, that maybe perhaps you don't know how you're going to do it. That yes, maybe you're going through a lot of pain right now. That yes, maybe right now that you're not quite sure if you can handle this burden, if you can carry this thing. And what I'm saying to you is trust me on this, that you'll be able to handle it. You can handle it. You can handle it. You can handle it. You can handle it. And finally, you've got to finish. Yeah, you've come too far. And so this is your time to finish. You've got to cross the finish line. You've got to finish this book. You've got to finish this business opportunity. You've got to finish this business plan. You've got to finish losing the weight. You've got to finish saving this relationship. You've got to finish getting out of debt. You've got to finish grabbing hold of your health. Whatever it is, you've got to finish, because at the end of the day, you've got to cross the finish line. And so just remember these things, and I want you to apply them instantly. Number one, play full out. Play full out. Why? Because how you do anything is how you do everything. The other thing is understand this, that you have the capacity to handle far more than what you think. That whatever it is that you're going on and that you're going through right now, that yes, it may be difficult, but you can handle this. You can handle this. You can handle this. You can handle this. And finally, you have to finish. Finishing is not an option. It's something that you've got to do. You've got to develop and train those muscles to cross the finish line. Don't develop the habit of starting strong and then yet finishing weak and not crossing the finish line. No, you want to finish strong. You want to not just go through the finish line. You want to run through, sprint through the finish line, so you could get that mental imprint in your mind, and you say to yourself, whatever I start, I finish. Whatever I start, I finish, because it's going to be the difference. It's ultimately going to be the difference between winning and losing. And so that's just a part of what I got from this weekend event. And I'm hoping you're going to be able to take a couple of these points and apply them to your life. This has been Andy Henriquez reminding you to always show up for your life. Because if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, no one else